Well, hello everyone. Welcome to the June 3rd meeting of the Rotary Club of Lancaster. Happy June to everyone. I can't believe we're in the month of June, and I only have one more month until my presidency comes to an end. Not that I am counting down the days or anything. As I'm sure you all agree, our incoming president, Ben Bamford, will do a fabulous job. I trust that everyone had a nice weekend. Saturday, the boys and I went hiking, and Sunday, I took them to Six Flags Great Adventure. The amusement park, of course, is not open due to COVID, but the drive-through animal safari is. It was a great time, great experience, and the kids and myself had a nice time. So at this time, I'd like to turn our meeting over to Dave Hostler, who will be offering our invocation for today's meeting. Dave?
Shall we pray? Prayers today are sent heavenward, calling for God's mercy to all that suffer hardships from this pandemic that has no respect for borders. As a service club, it is fitting for us to remember those that serve on front lines, from medical care to food distribution. As caring Rotarians, we say prayers for families facing lost employment and children with disrupted education. And finally, we humbly give thanks when good health and good fortune are still our lot to enjoy. May God's peace be a blessing to all.
That's great. Thank you, Dave. Much appreciated, and as always, very nicely done. Moving on to joys and concerns. Fortunately, we did not have any concerns for this week, but we do have a few joys. The first is from past President Althea. Her family has lots of birthdays starting this week. Her daughter turned 30 and her grandson turned 3. Her sister, brother, and stepmother all have birthdays as well. So Althea says, let's eat cake. And I agree. So summer's here, she's excited, and she is joyful and grateful for her family. So that's terrific. Thank you for sharing, Althea. I personally have a joy. I am grateful for the fact that this school year is coming to an end. A very special thank you to all the teachers for adapting and doing such a great job with the hand that you were dealt. So very much appreciative to all teachers. Also, I'd like to thank my brother Randy, who is a barber and unfortunately has not been able to work due to COVID restrictions. Randy has dedicated his time to helping my kids with online schooling so that I could run my essential business. Not that Randy will watch this video, but nevertheless, a big thank you to my brother Randy. I certainly appreciate it. Moving on to announcements. Just another reminder to please consider making a contribution to the Rotary Foundation. If you need assistance in doing so, please let Kathy Hanley, Scott Owens, or Nick Downey know. I want to thank you in advance for your generosity. The second announcement, and though this was already announced previously, we have had some confusion, but I wanted to make clear, unfortunately, due to COVID-19, the 2020-2021 Youth Exchange opportunity has been canceled due to the travel restrictions. We look forward to a time when we can reinstate this wonderful program, but again, this coming year, the Youth Exchange opportunity has been canceled. Announcement number 3, Polio Plus. Today at noon, our district is asking that all members consider making a donation to help end polio. The campaign is titled Donate Your Lunch Money, so we are asking that whatever amount of money you are going to spend today for lunch, please consider donating that amount to help end polio. To make a donation, please visit www.endpolio.org/donate. Again, thank you for your generosity. Our final announcement is regarding Rotary Rendezvous, which will be tonight, June 3rd at 6 p.m. You all should have received an invitation on how to access our meeting via Zoom. Please join us tonight, as it'll be fun to catch up with one another, and we have a great program and discussion topics scheduled as well. So hopefully we'll see you tonight. As a reminder, this week we are supporting Checkers Bistro as our restaurant of choice to support local restaurants. Checkers Bistro, of course, is located at 398 Harrisburg Avenue here in Lancaster. Their phone number is 717-509-1069. And of course, we're asking you to please consider giving Checkers a call this week, placing a food and drink order to go, purchasing a gift card, or supporting them in some way. Thanks for your support. So at this point, we are going to get started with today's program, titled The World's Most Insane Dictatorship. Enjoy.
Turkmenistan is a country. Yes, we didn't make it up. You may not have heard of it, but believe me, it does exist. And you should be more worried about it than you think. Do you remember Ralph Wiggum from the... Well, Turkmenistan is like the Ralph Wiggum of countries. And before we go on, here's a disclaimer. Absolutely everything you're going to see in this video is real. We didn't make anything up. We're not even exaggerating. It's 100% true. You see, this country is about to be host to the stupidest ecological catastrophe in history. Yep, that's right, stupid. Basically, in 1971, the state sent geologists to look for natural gas in the desert, and they came up with the brilliant idea of building an extraction platform right above an underground cave. What could go wrong? Well, the platform sank, leaving a crater the size of a soccer field, a crater from which methane gas started pouring out. So, well, what did they do to stop the leak? Well, if you found a gigantic crater that's gushing out natural gas, what wouldn't you do? Well, yes, that's what they did. Someone came up with the brilliant idea of setting it on fire. Since then, the so-called Gate of Hell is still burning, and it doesn't look like it'll die out anytime soon. And you might be thinking, what are they doing now with that Gate of Hell? Is it a tourist attraction? Is it a restricted area to keep the public safe? Well, no, the Gate of Hell is used for this. Yes, the man you see driving as if he were Michael Schumacher himself is none other than the current dictator of Turkmenistan, a man called Gurbanguly Bird in a Meadow, and yes, his name is a total tongue twister and I'm not sure if I'm getting it right. He is indeed driving rally style around the Gate of Hell as a way of creating political propaganda. The Turkmenistan dictatorship is truly unique in history, but you might be thinking, okay, well, a basically insane dictator, I mean, what exactly is new? Is this the reason that we should care about Turkmenistan, Simon? Really? Well, no, there's much more to it. I mean, think about it. The existence of that Gate of Hell proves one thing. This country has gas. And we aren't talking about normal reserves here. Turkmenistan has the fourth largest natural gas reserves in the world. About 10% of the world's gas is in Turkmenistan. So, as you can imagine, Turkmenistan's potential is enormous. And best of all, it's a potential that can be exploited. To give you a better idea, Russia and Qatar currently export the most gas in the world.
FIFA chooses Russia and Qatar to host 2018 and 2022 World Cups.
As you can see, having gas means having friends all over the world. What's more, Europe has been looking for alternative gas supplies for years in order to curb its dependence on Russia. What's more, while Russia's gas reserves are estimated to last 58 years and Qatar's for 141, Turkmenistan has gas reserves for the next 317 years. And at this point, is anyone else remembering the teachers at school that told them that gas was going to run out anytime soon? But the fact that Turkmenistan has gas for more than 300 years means two things. One, that indeed they have a lot of gas, but also that they aren't exploiting it as much as they could. In fact, it's completely underexploited. So such a country has everything it needs to be swimming in abundance, especially if we consider that it has a population of less than 6 million people. Basically, these people shouldn't really have to worry about money. Unfortunately, this isn't the case. Most of the people are poor and they suffer under the dictatorship. Why did Turkmens remain so poor? What on earth is happening in this country? Well, today we'll answer all of these questions, but first, a bit of history.
craziest dictators in history.
Turkmenistan is a dictatorship, but is there anything worse than your own country being a dictatorship? Well, yes, and that's for the president to believe that he's Kanye West and torture all Turkmen with his flow.
Turkmenistan, Turkmenistan, Ali's amazing place I was at. Caspian waves and birds sing it down. Life is so wonderful in motherland.
So, it's not just that there's no freedom of speech, it's not bad enough that citizens are obliged to praise their leader, they also have to dance to his music. By now you may be wondering how you've never heard about Turkmenistan before, but you shouldn't feel bad. If the world were a hotel, Turkmenistan hung up its Do Not Disturb sign a long time ago. The Turkmen dictatorship doesn't want anyone to know what is happening in the country. That's how it's been since it became independent in 1991. In fact, no one knows for sure how many gas platforms there are in the country or if they actually work. No one knows the extent of the road infrastructure. Practically the only freely distributed information coming out of this country is its president's music. But if you think that you should be wary of President Berdim Muhamedo, it's because we haven't spoken of his predecessor, Sapamurad Niyazov, or as he wanted to be called, Turkmen Beysi, which means the leader of all Turkmen. Niyazov was first secretary of the Turkmen Communist Party during the Soviet era. From 1985 right up until his death in 2006, he was the most senior leader of Turkmenistan. After the USSR disintegrated in 1991, he still managed to hold on to the country's presidency. Far from allowing the country to evolve towards democracy, Niyazov proclaimed himself president for life, and Turkmenistan consolidated a dictatorship that was isolated from the world, an authoritarian regime without any respect for human rights. Niyazov imposed a cult based on his extravagant personality. His favorite hobby was to build huge golden statues all over Turkmenistan. Regarding foreign policy, he was more discreet. Niyazov proclaimed Turkmenistan's eternal neutrality. Turkmen Beysi's logic was if he leaves everyone alone, no one is going to mess with him. And until now, that strategy has actually worked pretty well for all of its dictators. It went so well that Niyazov ordered the construction of a gigantic monument to neutrality in the capital city of Ashgabat. And at the top they placed a 12-meter golden statue of Turkmen Beysi. But not just any statue, no, a statue that rotated in order to always be facing the sun. Now don't think that Niyazov was just a superficial guy obsessed with gold. Being a communist dictator, that's kind of standard. The worst was when he got emotional. Then he became a poet. He got so much into it that he wrote a book of poems, the Rujnama, the Book of the Soul. So far, writing a book is pretty standard for dictators too. Some write the Little Red Book, and Niyazov wrote, well, the Book of the Soul. But the thing is that every Turkmen was forced to learn this book by heart. It was essential in the educational system and in everyday life. You'd be getting your driver's license, and suddenly the examiner would say, Section 4, page 155. You may have been able to drive better than Michael Schumacher, but you either answered the Battle of Dandenachwan or failed instantly. But this wasn't enough for Niyazov, so he had to torture us with this as well. Turkmenistan is the place par excellence of impossible and improbable monuments. Turkmen Beysi himself ordered the construction of this statue of his book, a gigantic version that opens and closes every afternoon. Dictator Niyazov's eccentricities had no limits. He also changed the name of the days and months. January was called Turkmen Beysi in his honor, and April was after his mother, Gurban Sultan. September was renamed Rujnama, after his book. Now you may be thinking, but hey, with such a North Korean-style dictator, why didn't he bequeath the presidency to his son Murat? Well, see, Murat was so useless that Turkmen Beysi preferred his dentist as his successor over his own son. Because yes, current president Berdim Muhamedo really was a dentist his entire life, and now he's worse than a toothache for all Turkmens. However, his first moves as president were somewhat hopeful. Turkmenistan's calendar returned to normal. Knowing the Rujnama was no longer mandatory, he even took down some of Niyazov's golden statues. There was also progress in the economy. For decades, the only thing Turkmenistan could exploit was cotton. The rest was a subsistence economy. The Soviets searched persistently for natural gas, and of course they found it, but the results weren't significant. However, in 2006, Turkmenistan found its lifeline. And of course, you might be thinking, well, it sounds like everything was starting to work out for the country. Dictator Turkmen Beysi was dead, the new president seems half normal, and they discover a giant cache of gas. So, well, what could go wrong? Well, the usual. Turkmenistan's dictator just built a huge golden statue of himself riding a horse. What can I say? Don't ask me what they're eating in Turkmenistan or what's happening in the presidential palace that makes its leaders turn into a cross between King Midas and Goldfinger, but these dudes, they are not normal. True, Berdimuhamedow hasn't reached Turkmenbasy's level just yet, but he's not far off, and he's also given himself a nickname. Berdimuhamedow is Arkadag, which means the protector. So you may be wondering, well, what did this guy do with all of the gas? Well, let's find out.
Dragon fuel.
Turkmenistan is basically a desert. The 10th largest desert in the world, the Karakum Desert, occupies 60% of its territory. And remember that name, Karakum, because is there anything worse than your country being a desert? Well, yes, that's for your president to dedicate a song to it, and for you to have to clap and dance along to it like there's no tomorrow. I don't know about you guys, but I would promote the guy in green to be a minister. The good thing is that Turkmenistan has natural gas. Half of the gas that Turkmenistan currently produces is for its own consumption. The other half, of course, is exported. There are two ways to export natural gas. 2/3 of the world's gas trade is done through pipelines. The remaining third is done by ships thanks to liquefied natural gas. These ships are called gas carriers, and they transport liquid gas at a very low temperature. 75% of the global LNG market moves through the Pacific, with its main destinations being Japan, China, South Korea, and India. But here's where the problems begin for Turkmenistan. The main one is that it has no access to the ocean, so liquefying gas isn't an option. Therefore, they can only use gas pipelines. And obviously, to build pipelines, you need investment. As you can imagine, in a country with such a wild dictatorship, where the political elite has plenty of room for corruption, there's no transparency or legal certainty, so there's no one willing to invest. Faced with this scenario, which country do you think has shown the most interest in Turkmenistan? Well, that would be China, which is also a dictatorship and understands how to deal with these types of countries. The Red Dragon showed up in Turkmenistan as soon as it discovered how much gas they had. Their letter of introduction was to rain cash on the country. Fresh money for the Arkadag's whims in exchange for the site's exploitation and the construction of a 1,800-kilometer gas pipeline between Turkmenistan and the Chinese border. When this pipeline started operating, it provided China with more than 1/3 of the gas that it consumed. But since then, China's demand has tripled. This means that gas from Turkmenistan now represents 12% of the gas that the Asian giant requires. In any case, Turkmenistan is still the main country from which China buys natural gas. The problem is that it looks like all the gas that China is taking isn't really helping the Turkmen accounts. All analysts agree that the gas is helping the government pay back all of the loans that the Arkadag dictatorship once received. Then there's another problem. Whatever money arrives, the dictator spends entirely. His commitment to diversifying the economy and boosting tourism has two major milestones. The first was to build the largest airport in Central Asia. A whopping 2.4 billion euros have been spent on this airport, which has a capacity for 17 million travelers. To give you a comparison, this is roughly the same volume as that of Tel Aviv's airport. The other milestone is this.
До распределения гостей в гостиничных номерах оформляют регистрацию посетителей и предоставляют номера по желанию гостей.
Berdimuhamedow thought, if I have a desert and I want tourists, well, what can I do? Well, the communist version of Las Vegas, of course. The problem is that the Turkmen dictator forgot a minor detail. And it's that in order to have tourists, you have to provide visas, which they aren't willing to do. So what's the result? All those hotels are practically empty. The highest occupancy they reach is 30%. So his tourism project isn't as successful as expected. And his latest gamble is the organization of sporting events. $5 billion have been spent on a macro space to host the well-known Asian martial arts tournament. But the dictatorship has already moved forward to secure other upcoming events.
Ashgabat awarded 2021 Track Cycling World Championships by UCI.
In fact, we have footage of how Arkadag convinced the International Cycling Union.
Hormat prezidentime velosiped sürüp gelişine bir yerde gurnalan nişanalaryň deňine ügrüm edip başlady. Şol pırdotda yurdumyzyň ýaragly güýçleriniň bilen serkerde başdy, tapançadan nişanalara tarap ok atdy. Velosipedde ügrüm edip başyna nişanalary dürüst urmak bilen.
Now Berdimuhamedow is ready to go to the Olympic Games. Basically, Turkmenistan has a lot of gas, a part of which is being channeled to China at a very good price, and the money that comes in is basically spent by Arkhadag. But don't think he spends it all.
The Economist. 23 billion from Turkmenistan has accumulated in accounts in Germany.
The only reason the people of Turkmenistan should be optimistic is the energy transition. How long the dictatorship will last, that's hard to know, but all the signs indicate that the world will want more gas in the medium term. Europe, for example, would be delighted to have more access to gas. To reduce its dependence on Russian gas, they wouldn't be above making pacts with the dictatorship. We've already seen all about that in our video about Azerbaijan. But again, Turkmenistan's biggest problem is its geographical situation. Building a pipeline under the Caspian Sea is the most direct option to reach Europe, but that would put it in the path of Azerbaijan, which wants to use its own pipelines to sell its gas to Europe, not facilitate the sale of Turkmen gas. And Russia and Iran won't make building this gas pipeline through the Caspian easy. In other words, Turkmenistan would either have to go through Iran, which with the issues of US sanctions isn't an option, or go through Russia, but then Europe would continue to depend on the Kremlin for its gas. Faced with this scenario, apart from the Chinese pipeline, the only option that seems viable is the TAPI pipeline. But, well, what is TAPI? Very simply, Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India. $10 billion invested to export an amount similar to what Turkmenistan currently sells to China. 42% of the gas would be for Pakistan, another 42% for India, and Afghanistan would keep the remaining 16%. The idea seems good, and we'll be watching to see if it actually works. It will also make a nice change to see Afghanistan exporting something other than drugs and jihadists. The pipeline would be a true boost for the Turkmen economy, but we have to wonder if that money will really reach the people, or if Berdimuhamedow will just keep spending it. But here's a question for you. Do you think Turkmenistan will jump on the energy transition train, or will the dictatorship continue to ruin it? Can you think of a project that the gas money should be spent on? And further, which Arkhadag song do you like the best? The Turkmenistan rap or the Karakum Desert? Tell me what you think in the comments. In the meantime, don't forget that we release new videos every week, so please subscribe to this channel, click on the bell so you don't miss any updates. If you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time.
If you want to learn more about politics and world affairs and hear some more of my lovely voice, come check out the Reconsider podcast, where we don't do the thinking for you. Find Reconsider at www.reconsidermedia.com or on Apple or Google Play or your favorite podcatcher.
Joy and race spirit high. Sports is the way to your health.
Wow, very interesting. So there are a variety of political comments and jokes I could make right now, but instead I would rather wish you all a safe and productive week. Remember, even though many of us are still isolated, I encourage you to continue to live as Rotarians. And lastly, I am including a small video clip from this past weekend of me and my boys to hopefully brighten your spirits and get you into the summer mood. Until we meet again, take care, everybody. Bye-bye. Ready? Yeah.
I want to try that!